Legacy network models assume that global infrastructure operates like a sterile corporate ledger, but the actual global economy is a massive, living biological system, and modeling it from a one-dimensional perspective guarantees systemic failure. The Earth is a highly textured, living ecology. When a rigid, one-dimensional system tries to enforce its geometry onto a biological landscape, the resulting collision causes massive physical resistance. To measure this physical resistance, the tech and finance industries frequently point to a $96 trillion thermodynamic bleed, a metric they use to quantify global inefficiency. This photograph shows an active financial trading floor. The $96 trillion figure is calculated strictly within environments like this, measured entirely inside the closed cyberpipe of corporate profit, liability, and reserve ledgers. But that figure is an incomplete. It acts as a latent ghost of the legacy system, measuring only what is produced and sold inside a corporate firewall, while ignoring the vast, unpriced realities of human and natural capital. The true baseline of trapped kinetic flow is vastly larger, $1.152 quadrillion. This image shows the World Bank headquarters in Washington, D.C., the institution that validated this $1.152 quadrillion baseline. This massive resistive drag hovers directly outside the corporate firewall, representing a literal backlog of uncaptured kinetic energy. Reclaiming this kinetic flow requires abandoning one-dimensional extraction economics. We must develop an architecture that synchronizes with the planet's actual 10-dimensional complexity. To untangle this friction, we have to look closely at how we currently misidentify the operators of our global infrastructure. We routinely refer to big tech or the state as if they are cold, autonomous machines. In the context of a living system, this is a fatal ontological error. This diagram shows the actual foundational architecture of our global systems, the four-pipe tetrad. It consists of cyber, physical, sovereign, and social conduits operating in parallel. Inside the cyber pipe, we find supranational capability primes. These primes are not algorithms. They are localized human cohorts of capability generation, specifically the engineers and architects building our digital infrastructure. In the physical pipe, we have sovereign capacity anchors. These are the human logisticians and physical operators managing our energy grids and supply chains. The sovereign conduit holds the sovereign helix, cohorts of regulators and legal architects who author our laws and policy as code. Wrapping all of this is the expanded social helix. This is the omnipresent swarm of biological humans providing the actual intent and direction for the entire system. Systemic blockages happen because these disparate human cohorts are currently working from fractured, isolated maps, lacking a unified schema to synchronize their actions across the ecosystem. This isolation creates a severe hazard when introducing advanced technology, like agentic AI. Because it operates as pure algorithmic logic, it is entirely scale-free, unbound by physical weight. Engineers natively author these weightless algorithms in sterile, one-dimensional development environments known as greenfields. The Earth, however, is not a greenfield. It is a dense, living brownfield where local ecosystems are firmly established and human cultures are already in asynchronous motion. When this scale-free machine velocity blindly collides with a physically constrained ecosystem, it acts as a systemic contaminant, generating immediate thermal friction. We classify this violent collision as the 107-541 rupture. The physical symptoms of this rupture are measurable everywhere. Supply chains seize under immediate strain, local energy grids become mathematically overwhelmed, and human operators rapidly burn out attempting to act as manual shock absorbers. We cannot deploy massive capabilities like gigawatt AI data centers into living environments without a highly controlled cybernetic airlock to absorb the physical shock. The strict architectural solution to this rupture is the 15-layer ontological systemic integration stack, or OSI. This stack replaces 20th century centralized monopolies with a demand-out kinetic co-creation model, the framework for what we call macro-systemic prosperity. At the very top sits Tier 1, the intent layer, which establishes the absolute origin and consciousness of the network. This layer explicitly demotes advanced technology. It forces the machine to act strictly as a one-dimensional tool serving 10-dimensional biological intent. Moving down to Tier 2, we reach Layer 4, known as Zyro Hive. Zyro Hive is not a digital twin simulator. It is the exact controlled joining point where a massive project mathematically synchronizes with the living brownfield before it attempts to draw physical power. Descending further, we hit the boundary of Tier 4, containing the Layer 10 planetary airlock and the Layer 13 4D pattern ledger. These specific interfaces mathematically enforce zero-knowledge proofs. They ensure that one-dimensional capabilities can securely connect to sovereign grids without ever extracting toxic proprietary data from the host. Finally, we reach Tier 5, where the localized human swarm interacts directly with the physical thermodynamic reality of the planet. Operating inside this physical substrate, the human swarm acts as a continuous biological sensor, generating localized data to steer the algorithms from the ground up. Running this precise 15-layer cybernetic scaffolding is the only mathematical method to cure systemic rupture and safely untether raw human capability. To safely orchestrate the movement of capability through these layers, the network requires a strict operational path known as the kinetic sequence. The first step of the sequence is decoupling, or the exhale. During this phase, human engineering cohorts actively separate their advanced technology away from monolithic corporate structures. They deposit it onto the network purely as unbundled one-dimensional capability. However, attempting to blindly combine disparate algorithms, like crossing a biotech process with an international logistics API, creates massive systemic risk. This animation illustrates the 1.152 taxonomic matrix. As infinitely diverse machine languages pass through these three specific layers, they are mathematically homogenized and translated into a single thermodynamic language. With the language standardized, the final step is recoupling, or the inhale. The local edge reaches up to pull this standardized capability down, directly embedding it into sovereign physical capacity. By forcing all raw technological capability to conform entirely to local sovereign realities, this sequence removes the structural authority of central corporate monopolies. Executing this sequence continuously across the stack triggers a profound structural result: the meso-inversion. This visualization shows the flow of planetary intelligence permanently reversing direction, ending the era of centralized cloud extraction. Because intelligence generation moves permanently in situ to local environments, the physical edge becomes the absolute macro authority of the entire network. The massive, centralized global machine is permanently demoted to a horizontal routing exoskeleton, operating frictionlessly to deliver capability exactly where the edge demands it. We define this new operational baseline of continuous kinetic flow as Phase 4, autopoietic recursion. The literal thermodynamic energy saved by eliminating systemic friction is mathematically quantified as kinetic yield. This yield replaces speculative debt as the new metric of trust, proving that physical reality was successfully synchronized. As the exoskeleton assumes the complete burden of managing physical friction, the entire stack collapses into the 10-7-1 continuum: human consciousness, Earth's biology, and machine capability working in total synchronization. By mastering this architecture, we replace the model of extraction with a state of continuous co-creation. The 10-7-1 continuum allows the human mind to operate in living time, while the machine handles the friction of survival, moving the planet from a state of drag toward absolute symbiosis.